Hey everybody, welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm so blessed and honored to be here with our friend Chris Hall, Managing Director of GTN. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, Ben. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to this. Although
I am too. I was boning up on my tax topics earlier today. I didn't want to be caught, unprepared here.
Well, I hope not too much. Because, I don't want you asking me any difficult tax questions.
Yeah, no, well, okay, so scratch that. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, so do me a favor, everybody, get in the comments here. I want to hear your tax questions and other questions for Chris. You can be fun, we can be serious, we can go all over the place today. Want to hear what you're thinking out there. Let me know who you are, where you are, what company you're with. Get active in the comments there. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already. You know the deal by now. So check that out. Also, big shout out to Move for Hunger, putting these amazing tumblers together. Chris, what do you think about these?
That's pretty nice.
Right? This is a vacuum sealed metal, like thermos style, like Yeti style. I don't know if I'm allowed to use the word Yeti, but it's Yeti-ish, Yeti-like tumbler right here. Brandon, what do you think? What do you think the retail is on this, Chris?
I got to say, what, $25 or something?
It's for charity, Chris. Keep going.
Oh, what are we doing? 35?
Dang, 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 Chris.
Very nice.
So this is important, everybody. These are for charity. 100% of the funds, not even just the proceeds, not the profits, not after I pay myself. 100% of the $35 you spend on this tumbler right here goes to Move for Hunger. And on the other side, it says Love and Real, it says Move for Hunger. You get the point, so on and so forth. Summer's approaching. Margaritas, coffee with margaritas, micheladas. I mean, whatever you're into. These are great. So go pick one of these up. The website, Stacy, can I get the website here? It's moveforhunger.org/Tumblr. Tumblr/Tumblr. Moveforhunger.org/Tumblr. Go check these out. $35. Get you one of these. Buy one for you. Buy one for a friend. Christmas right around the corner. Anyway, Chris, it's so good to have you here. This is wonderful, man. Shout out to Steve Hoffman also, who kind of introduced us and brought you out today. But Chris, where in the world? We got people checking in right now. Keep checking in. Let us know where you're at, who you are. But Chris, where in the world are you right now?
I am in an office in Stamford, Connecticut, just outside of New York City. So I did about 10 weeks at home with the wife and kids, and then I sort of had to say, no, I need to go back to the office. So it's pretty enclosed here, so it's always been fairly safe, but it's I couldn't do that working at home thing. I take my hat off to people who can.
Yeah. 10 weeks with the wife and kids, and you were over it, huh?
Something to do with not having a door on our office. That was the big problem. Yeah.
Ooh,
and a 4-year-old with nothing to do coming in.
I know. I got one that'll probably be coming through here at some point today.
Yeah.
I hear you on that. It doesn't sound like a Connecticut accent I'm picking up on, though, Chris.
No, that is fair enough. I have been here for 21 years now, but no, I'm originally from the UK. So
okay.
Yeah,
welcome.
I've done the bit of global travel by myself,
Nice. So you're you're an expat transferee yourself.
Indeed.
So,
yeah.
So what brought you to the US? I'm always fascinated by people that move overseas and decide to make that leap. I mean, that's kind of our business, isn't it? So it's probably good that I'm interested in it. But what made you do that, Chris?
Partly, growing up, it had always been something in the back of my mind that I wanted to do. Not specifically America, just anywhere other than the UK. And that's not dissing the UK. It's just my dad had traveled a lot when I was growing up for his work. And so I always thought, this is something I want to do. I want to get out there and see the world, but I wanted to do it in a bit more of a permanent way than my dad had done it. He was more of a business traveler. I thought, if I get the opportunity, I want to go ahead and take that. And so I was actually doing US tax as well as UK tax in the UK. So it was a very easy transition in terms of skill set. It wasn't such an easy transition in terms of culture shock, because even though we're supposed to be two very similar countries, it's very different when you move, even UK to US. And I'm assuming now if I move back to the UK, I'd have reverse culture shock now. So that was interesting. Yeah.
100%. So far, 5 minutes in, we found three things that Chris can only take so much of: his wife, his kids in the UK,
Yep.
So
Not necessarily in that order, though, Ben.
okay, all right, awesome. We got people checking in here. Get active in the comments. I want to know who you are, where you are. Give me your tax questions, okay? I'll be admittedly, Kristen, you have to bear with me here. I don't know if anybody told you this. I'm not a tax expert.
Some would argue neither am I, but we'll do our best together, Ben. All right.
I relearn about tax every April. That's about all I know.
That's about all
bear
you
with
need.
me. But I want to uncover some trends right now and some topics that are hot for people, and we'll try to keep it fun. Tim Quirk, hello. Kristen, Ben from Western New York. What's up, Tim? Stacy Huff. What's up, super producer Stacy? How you doing? Alan King from Germany. The Germans. I heard somebody speak at a regional relocation conference, and they said it's harder to do taxes for someone that moves from New Jersey to California than it is from Germany to Spain. Is that true in your opinion?
I would argue no.
Okay.
You know, I think the question there is you have two separate countries and two completely different taxing authorities that have their own interpretation of not only their own law, but their law being based in different bases. So I think it's not uncomplicated going from New Jersey to California, but moving country is a whole different ball game in my mind.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. Let me ask you this along those same lines. Do you think that domestic U.S. transferees should get tax assistance?
Very interesting question. I think it.
I know you're biased here. Full disclosure, everybody.
Well, full disclosure, we don't do a lot of domestic work right now. Largely, nobody's doing a lot of domestic work right now. Okay. Very good point. Very good point. Yeah. Part of the reason is that what you're really changing on a domestic move is just at the federal level. So the overall impact typically isn't going to be that much. I mean, yes, you may have somebody moving from Florida to California where you're going from 0 to maybe 11 or 12%. That's a big impact. But, you know, if you're moving from New York to Connecticut or Connecticut to New Jersey, those aren't big change. You know, you might be talking 1 or 2%. The filings, not hugely complicated. Although I think what we're going to see going forward, Ben, is we're going to see more and more complication in state filing because we're going to have these remote workers. So people are going to be working everywhere. You know, and what I think is going to be the most complicated, Ben, is if people are doing this, what I hear the market is calling hybrid arrangements. So let's say they say, right, okay, yeah, you used to work in Rhode Island 5 days a week, but now we're going to let you live in Connecticut for 3 days or work from Connecticut for 3 days a week, but we want you in the office 2 days a week. And so the employer is going to have to track all that. And then the allocation of income is going to get much more complicated. So
when you say they have to track all that, they got to track all that. And they also have to withhold accordingly.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
How do they do that? I mean, I'm sorry, it might be a stupid question, but I mean, that's a lot of tracking. I mean, they literally somebody counting days and are they using systems to do this? I mean, that's a lot. It's
with great difficulty. And I think this is one of the trends we're going to see. I think up until this point, I would say that state to state domestic travel has been one of the largest areas of non-compliance in the US because it has been so difficult to manage. I've had numerous clients that have had people in other states. I had one where the CEO was flying back and forward from Illinois to New York, and they weren't allocating the days. They just didn't have either the systems or the tracking mechanisms to do it. What we're seeing now, though, with the state authorities is they're no longer accepting that as an excuse. They are saying, look, you're a big bank or you're a large tech firm. How can you tell us you don't know where your people are? And so those excuses of just like, well, we're doing a simple model are going away.
Well, now I want to stop you. I want to stop you there right there. And I just want to dig into that for 1 second there. So you're saying the states aren't accepting that. They're saying you're a company with means. How can you tell me? What about companies that don't have means? What about small businesses? What about moderately sized firms that are kind of rather unsophisticated, you know? I mean, can they get a little leeway here, or is it still very much the letter of the law?
I think they're going to get a leeway through human nature. So let me explain what that means. They're going to get some leeway because state auditors, they're going to go after the big guys first. You know, there's more money if you're looking at Coca-Cola's payroll than Global Tax Network's payroll. That's just
shout out to Coca-Cola. The auditors are coming for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. They're all over you now if they're watching this. But that's just how human nature works. But I think the warning is, Ben, is if you've got a policy that me as the employer is saying to you, Ben, you can work wherever you like. How can you have that policy and then not fulfill your compliance? You're either saying we're going to do this and we're going to be compliant, or we're going to tell people where they need to work. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this develops. I think probably, as I say, small and medium employers are going to have more time to get this sorted, but it is something that they probably want to start addressing sooner rather than later as we get back to the new normal that everybody's calling it.
I want to talk more about this because everybody's talking about work from home. Everybody's talking about work from anywhere. I feel like tax is having a moment right now, Chris, along with the rest of global mobility. I feel like you guys are like kind of important these days.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting whether we actually have a moment or whether a lot of companies back off from that moment. You know, we might be dating, but then we're going to get stood up at the altar somehow.
Yeah, they're like, Chris, he's cute, but he's high maintenance. I don't know.
Exactly, yeah, and it's going to cost way too much, as all married people know. So what's going to happen? Well,
but is it cheaper to stay with you or cheaper to leave you, Chris? That's the thing that they're going to have to weigh, right? We can go on and on with this. I want to hear your questions out there for Chris. I want to hear what challenges you're dealing with or your clients are dealing with out there from a tax perspective. Please leave those in the comments. I love hearing the comments from the folks out there. Let's see who else is checking in with us before we double click into work from anywhere. Jack Jampel, hi, Chris and Ben. Jack, I know you got some tax curveballs. Throw some wicked curves over here at Chris here. That was a terrible accent. I don't know where I went with that. Ray, good afternoon, everyone. What's up, Ray? Sharon, happy Tuesday from Express Corporate Housing in humid Houston. What's up, Sharon? We had Houston in the house yesterday. Steve Hoffman, Chris is from Australia originally. True or false?
I get this all the time. People think I'm Australian, but I assure you I'm English. I don't know. Maybe my accent has changed over the last 20 years.
I could hear it. Now that you say it, I could hear that I could hear it. I don't know, Steve. It might be something there. Hey, Dad. Love you, man. Thanks for checking in. Matthew Nee, stay in the office, Chris. It's a nightmare on 95 today. You know it's bad when the movers are listening to tax talk when they're driving. You know traffic's slow when they're listening to the tax talk. Cecile, let's see. Happy Tuesday from New York. Elizabeth, good to see you, neighbor. She's in Connecticut.
Yep, just up the road.
Very cool. Elena, hi, Chris and Ben checking in from the Department of Motor Vehicles, i.e. DC, Maryland, and Virginia. What's up? Chris, did you get a dog? Very important question.
Yes, we did. We did, actually. This was pre-pandemic. We got a dog. We got Brewster, as he's known. When was that? October 2019, just in time for the pandemic. We adopted him. We rescued him from a little place down in Harrison, New York, who assured us.
My haircut in Harrison growing up. I was a really? Place guy. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, they've assured us he's only going to be 35 pounds, and now he's 70 pounds of solid muscle. So he's good fun. He's good fun. Love him to bits.
That's great. That's great. Not a hair over 35. Steve Hoffman, I don't do much of any work these days. Great, Steve. Great. I think that's a comment about COVID. That's a COVID comment. That's not by choice, I'm sure. Richard Majewski, hi, all from West London. Shout out to the Saba wine time. Jack. Okay, Jack's got a question. There we go, Jack. Appreciate you. Love to hear your questions. Please throw these questions out. Want to answer these. Jack says, isn't it too early to determine trends when we are not even close to being out of COVID? Aren't we just discussing worst case scenarios at this time? I'm going to let you handle that one. You want to take a stab at that, Chris?
Sure. I think
even though it's probably intended towards me.
Yeah, I think the trend to Well, I kind of referred this a little bit to Jack's point, to Jack's question earlier when I was saying, you know, tax may get up to the brink and then it'll get pushed back again. Because I think, yeah, it is too early to see. We've already seen some change in that over the last few weeks. So, you know, a lot of those big tech companies went out and said, yeah, you can work from anywhere. That's fine. We don't, you know, on a beach in Bermuda, you know, at your family's house in Canada, it doesn't matter. You can work wherever you like. And then I think they started realizing, some of the top bosses started getting educated on what the tax and immigration implications of that would be. And now they're kind of reeling that back, saying, well, you can work from anywhere as long as it's in the country that you're originally hired in, because those implications, if you just say you can work anywhere, that could cost millions of dollars for employers. In terms of some of the trends, I think we're bound to see them just based on history. After 2008, with the big financial crash, we saw tax authorities really hammering for revenue. It's almost certain that we're going to see that again. So this need for compliance, I don't see that one going away.
But even if companies say, okay, but you got to be in the country that we're in, you know, you got to be in the U.S., right? Let's say. I mean, aren't there still going to be state tax issues?
Yeah. I
mean, and even if somebody's not working from anywhere and they're just working from home, are there tax issues? Like, so let's say, I mean, you're in Connecticut, and let's say your office is New York City, and now you're working from Connecticut instead of New York City. Is that a problem?
There are, not to get too technical, but there are convenience of employer rules that apply in a few states. Connecticut and New York happen to be two of them that can create problems as well. So generally, somebody working from home in their same state is not going to be too much of an issue, because if they're going to claim maybe office benefit or home office things like that, they're going to do that on their tax return. Where it's a trouble for the employer is where there's payroll reporting requirements. And yeah, somebody working from home in another state could create those for these convenience of employers. But where you're really going to see, I think, the challenge is this hybrid where people are moving around. And then remember, there's going to be increased business travel. People think, oh, no one's going to travel anymore. But eventually we're going to have to travel to home office, right? We're going to go and have to see the boss sometimes, or we're going to have to go back and start seeing clients. So we're going to bring a lot more states into the equation. You may have been an employer with 5 states. Now you may become an employer with 17, 20 states. And does your payroll system support that? So that's something that yeah, state-wise, domestic travel in the US is probably harder than anywhere else. I mean, yes, you can look at Canada and places like Switzerland, but domestic travel in the US is, for remote work particularly, is going to be the hardest nut to crack for mobility managers.
We've got another great question here, Jack. Thank you for that. Well, you know what? I'm going to stay on this though, well, no, we're going to move on, Jack. I might come back to this idea though about future state stuff towards the end there. But Dan actually has a great question about this, and keep those questions coming, Jack, Dan, Sandra, Valerie, Elizabeth. I see a bunch of questions coming. That's great. Keep them coming. Dan says, "Hi, Ben and Chris. How difficult is it for organizations to get a state set up in their system to withhold for remote workers who are moving to Florida, Texas, etc.? Are the costs huge?"
They're not huge, no. Just adding a state. Sometimes you might have a payroll system where you need to upgrade. But again, we're not talking huge costs there for an organization. For example, GTN, we're a fairly small company. We've got people all over the US. So it's not, that isn't really the challenge. The question then is really, okay, if you're going to say, Ben, I think, are you in Texas at the moment, Ben? Where are you?
I am in Texas.
Yeah,
yes, I'm very in Texas.
Let's say, Ben, you're working for a company and you say, right, I'm going to go and work from my family home in Arkansas. Again, I know you're from the Bronx, but we'll pull out Arkansas just to make it more interesting. If you then start working in Arkansas, depending on what you're doing for the company, the company may then have what we call a state nexus. And again, I don't want to get too technical, but what that basically means is, all right, Ben, because Ben is working there, your employer is now doing business there. So it's not just withholding. They're also going to have to file a state tax return and potentially allocate income to that state that they're then going to have to pay state tax to. So at the corporate level. So there are all kinds of different implications to this. And then again, think about places like Massachusetts and California that have different vacation rules and healthcare rules. And benefits rules. And again, this is now getting beyond my expertise. This is just things we're talking about to our clients of like saying, well, if you do this, these are areas that you need to consider. And part of the challenge for this is that there's probably no single expert that can answer all of the questions around the 401k, the state withholding, the benefits requirements, the healthcare requirements. So again, that's just domestically in the US.
Do your clients call you with like one problem, and then when you leave, they have like 6 problems because they didn't even know about the 5 other problems?
I don't want to necessarily admit that in public, but yeah, probably.
Because I'm like the kind of person that would like call an expert, like, fine, you know, screw it, let's get Chris in here. Hey man, solve this. He's like, well, have you thought about this, and this? And I'm like, oh man, you know, I already told Tony to go work from home. We bought a place in Arkansas, and now I'm like over here paying. And then, you know, so I gotta. Do you find yourself, or do you foresee circumstances where companies would start reaching out to you almost proactively and saying, okay, so and so wants to move here. What is the total cost of this benefit, if you want to call it a benefit?
Yeah, and I think that's where the market is headed. There's a number of firms that are looking to do this now. I know Global Tracker, who we work with in terms of business traveler, are just introducing a remote worker sort of module to their technology. And I think what you're going to see, those companies that are looking to do this proactively already, and hopefully, you know, there will be more and more who are looking to do this in the future, are looking at a pre-approval, Ben, so that it's not just, oh yeah, you can go and do it, and then we'll clean this up on the back end. They're going to have like a sign up to say, right, as of this date, we're back in the office. If you don't want to be back in full time, or you want to work permanently somewhere else, put in an application form so that we can address the issues, and then we can say yes or no.
That sounds like the move right there. Let us know what you want to do. Plug in the scenario, right? Where are you going to live? Where's your office? Where are you going to live? What do you know? Whatever. And then it spits out the liability to the company.
Yeah.
Or can it go the other way? Is there a situation where it goes the other way and it actually turns into a benefit, you know, to a
well, I mean, one of the interesting trends, and you've probably heard about this already, Ben, we're speaking with other guests, is this idea of, again, well, we'll use the Arkansas example, right? It's like you're in, you know, Texas, there's high wages, there's, you know, software companies come in. If you're making 150,000 and they move you to Arkansas where the going rate is 75, are they going to reduce your wage? I mean, I'm sure you and I as employees would say, hang on, my value's still the same. What do you care what I'm spending on my house or my meals out?
Well, it's funny because it goes one way, but it doesn't go the other, right? I mean, I think it was Ray Kirby that did a post about this on LinkedIn recently. And I'd love to hear thoughts from people out there that are seeing this or thinking about this. But I think he called it localization, right? Yeah. And he says, okay, if you're gonna move here, we're gonna localize your rate, but it goes down, but it doesn't go, because like what if I'm in Texas and I want to move to Seattle? What if I'm from San Francisco? What if I'm from New York originally? I want to move to White Plains, New York, right? And so now my cost of living goes up, you know, 30%.
Yeah.
Does my wage go up 30%? Like so it goes down if I move to Arkansas, but would it go up if I move to White Plains?
Yeah,
Can you have a policy that goes one way and doesn't go both ways? I mean,
you know, I mean, you look at the extreme, right? If you're saying work anywhere, you got people working in India who suddenly put their hand up and say, I want to go to San Francisco. I mean, that would be quite the cost shift for everybody. And so I think, you know, what's, again, to Jack's point earlier, we don't really know yet where this is going to go and what is going to become the prevailing treatment in that scenario.
Yeah, this is to Jack, 100%. This is to Jack's point, right? Where it's like, are we making once we sort through the what ifs, are we going to land back on, you know what? We're going to tell people where they work. We're going to say the job is based here. You can do the job here. Don't throw Arkansas at me. Don't throw San Francisco at me. Don't throw India at me. Here's where the job is. I agree with that. But I also agree, just like work from home, when we all go back in the office, are we all going to go back in the office, or is another 10% going to stay home? Yeah. So I think that, for the most part, Jack, this is much ado about nothing. But it's going to change the way that we think about it. And there's going to be some people who are going to insist on it. And it may fly at small companies and it may not fly at large companies. To your point earlier about concessions and leniency, but I think we're going to see it's going to be more prevalent than it was. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I would completely agree. It's going to be more prevalent. I think some of it though will come down to industry, Ben. Obviously, if you're, you can't build cars from home. You can't go mining from home. Obviously, those are extreme examples. But I've even heard of some surprising industries. People in the music industry saying, "Nope, we're going back full time, or everybody together." And I was really shocked by that. I didn't think that would be.
But it's it's a creative thing, right? You always think of the studio session, the producer, the entourage, the drugs. You know what I mean? It's like it all has to be in one place for it to work. You know what I mean? You can't have the drugs over here, the entourage over here, the producer over here. It doesn't work, So I think that but now, okay, let's take this a step further though. So you're saying, we're saying, okay, it works for small companies, maybe, gig workers, contractors, solopreneurs like myself, like Elizabeth. We're seeing a rise in these arrangements as well. Are these arrangements somewhat immune and impervious to these requirements? Like for me, I'm going to use my own case. I have a business in Texas now. I closed my Michigan. I opened in Texas. I'm in Texas. I'm going to be traveling. I might take my show on the road, right?
Yep.
Do I need to be concerned with some of these withholding situations?
The withholding will be as an individual businessman or a part of a small business. The withholding will be more about the direction of where the income is coming from. So, as the owner of a corporate entity, if you're getting revenue from New York, you're going to have to file a New York state tax return. It's unlikely that you'll have withholding on that income, but they will be aware that you've got income from the state. It works differently for employees versus independent contractors. So if you're a regular independent contractor gig worker, at the moment in the US, the employer or the hirer, for want of a better word, doesn't have to withhold at the moment. And so in general, but you can still have very complicated affairs if you are moving around the country as an independent contractor or a business person, definitely.
Interesting. We have to talk offline here. Let's see here. Let's see here. Jack says, if your companies have regional comp plan, then most times it will go both ways. He's talking about the localization and the COLA adjustments and stuff. Very interesting. Jack, I'd love to hear, if you do that or not, or if you know of any companies that do it. I think it's really interesting. Hey, we got some great comments here. Oh gosh, Jack. Okay, here. Jack's like the best. I mean, he's just coming in with just so many questions here. He's saying, in my opinion, remote work will be more prevalent, but major tracking systems are being marketed to companies with a sky is falling scare. Thoughts?
Isn't that what consultants are supposed to do? I think we sell fear, my word. I mean, if everything was always fine, we'd never sell anything. So
if you didn't need us, you wouldn't buy anything, right? Yeah.
Exactly. But no, I do agree with Jack's assessment, and I think I think one of the things that you probably need to look at is, all right, if you're doing remote work, what are you going to accept, and then what kind of system are you going to need? Because if you truly have a work anywhere system like some of the Googles and whatevers of the world are talking about, you're going to need a more robust system than, all right, we're going to allow you to work within 100 miles of these 5 offices that we already have. To your point a little bit, Ben, about, right, this is where this is where the job is based, and we're going to need you to be able to get into the office without having to wait 10 hours for you to get here because you're flying in from, Romania or wherever your family is from. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see here. We got some other great comments. Keep those comments and questions coming. This is your opportunity to get free advice from a managing director. Okay, Chris Hall, managing director. Free advice here, people. Okay.
Oh, did they not talk to you about my contract, Ben? That was
money back guarantee. All right. Lisa Johnson. Hi, Chris. We find some companies are planning to use global or standard compensation based on the role, and other companies are adjusting based on locations, but limiting locations. The philosophy and strategy will determine the approach for work from anywhere or remote work.
Yep, very valid. Very valid. Yep.
So this is when she says standard compensation, she mean one figure, $1 amount for the job, no matter, and you know, your where you live is your business. I mean, not your business, obviously the business of the company as well, but it's your decision.
Yeah, and again, I'd love to hear Lisa's thoughts on this, but I'm assuming that's probably more technology driven. So if you're a programmer, and again, I'm already displaying my complete lack of knowledge about technology, but
Welcome to the club.
Yeah,
Come on.
let's say you're a programmer. If you're a programmer that is working on project A and you're sitting in Romania, and then there's another worker on project A who's sitting in Australia, isn't their value the same if they're working on the same project? So, you know, I see how that model works. I think it's
the value of their output is the same. The contribution to their team and their organization may vary depending on their environment. I mean, are you the same value at home as in the office? I would argue you might be more valuable in the office because you're impacting other people.
Yeah. And again, I think that's where it comes down to this being not even industry specific, but probably a business specific decision as to what does our business look like, and what can we justify both in terms of our operating model, but also the type of people that we employ. You know, are we really that bothered about, you know, people being near the office, and therefore can we let them go and not really worry about cost, or is there a distinct disadvantage to them being further away, like you say?
Very interesting. Okay, let's see here. We got some other comments coming in here as well. Are you cool with you know, all these trade secrets that you're divulging here, Chris? I mean, are you okay with this? You got anything left to sell at the end of this program?
Absolutely. I haven't actually answered a technical tax question yet, so I'm feeling good. No one's actually challenged me.
And
really
yet
badly.
the clock has been running this whole time, and you haven't actually answered a question.
Exactly.
This is good. Sandra says, "Hi, Ben and Chris. Is there a litmus test for what is an extended visit versus remote work location? Remote working is nice for catching up on family visits and working while there, but when does a tax situation kick in?"
I will use the classic tax answer, which, Ben, I'm going to teach you to be a tax consultant now.
Please.
Whenever you get a difficult question like that, the first answer you should always say is, well, it depends. And then you can waffle for a couple of minutes and then say, I'll get back to you on this. See, I just trained you to be a tax advisor.
It depends, and then the afterwork kicks in.
Exactly. So, yeah, but it really does. I mean, there are all kinds of different things. Different countries, obviously, will have different rules. Different states will have different rules. There is actually something in Congress right now that's talking about introducing a 30-day minimum of interstate travel before a liability kicks in. But I think that bill's been knocking around for about 15 years and it's never made it out of the house. So I wouldn't put any sort of hope in that. But generally what we will do with a client is we'll just sit down and say, look, what's your risk tolerance? Because California might say 1 day. And you know what? Even as a tax advisor, we're just going to say, we're not doing that. It's ridiculous. But where does your risk sit? And again, it comes down to the type of organization, the type of controls they have, what risk they envisage that they have in particular countries, and also the fact patterns of their industry. So, for example, and I'm not going to go in too much detail, because if you've got a very high-paid superstar and you're in the music industry and everybody knows that person does their TV show from California, you probably want to spend a bit more time tracking than, you know, the guy who's Bob Smith and no one's ever heard of. So you have to manage this kind of risk. Typically, we're going to see somewhere between a 15 to 30 day before we really start paying attention and saying, look, this is going to be we should at least look at it. We're not going to say it's an issue, but we should at least start looking at it. So
not really getting to the granularity of they were here on this day, then they went to this day on this day, and then they went to, because isn't that, to Jack's point earlier, isn't that kind of what the apps are set up to do, is to really track down to the granularity, or no? The problem is when you need that data from a tax perspective, because otherwise, how do you find out if somebody is going above and beyond the limits? Because it's, you know, some might say, oh, well, I only go to my family home, you know, for a week a month. And that's usually in the holidays. But then you actually find out that they're every month for a week, and suddenly they've been there for 3 months. You know, and in some countries that would be enough to, right, you've got a full filing requirement.
And so you need to track to a certain level of granularity. Some of the platforms are able to do that now with much less sort of drag on the organization and on the individuals. To be fair, it's then really you can, as well, to your point, but you can die in data, right? You've got, all right, yeah, Ben just went out for a sandwich at lunchtime and he crossed over the state border, and now we need to do
went to Jersey for a hoagie.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So we're not going to do that, but it's then really right. Okay, we've got some of this data. What are we going to do with that data? And sometimes, I mean, you do speak to a lot of clients who's like, I don't know if I even want that data in the first place.
I was going to say, if you're collecting it, don't you have now an obligation to use it, right? Because now it's like, not only are you telling me, that you're a big company and you're not reporting or withholding on these things, but you actually are collecting the data. You have the app and everything, and now you're choosing to, anyway.
Yeah, but going right back to the beginning though, Ben, that excuse of we didn't know our CEO was sitting in Canada for the last 6 months. They're just, all right, we don't care. Here's your bill. And we'll see you next year for another bill,
Yeah. Let's see here. We got some other questions. People checking in. Val from Houston, Steamy in Houston. Richard's asking, is that a northern twang? I'd say, Chris.
It is indeed. Yeah. Born near Newcastle, but all the family's from Sheffield, which is up north, as we say.
Nice. So funny. The southern twang here in the U.S., the northern twang. And very interesting. Indeed. That's great. Let's see here. We got some other stuff coming in here. Man, we got some good questions here. Elena's got one here. What's up, Elena? Good to hear from you. Hi, Chris. Do you think that countries like India with rigid residency and PE rules relax those rules for a period of time due to COVID travel limitations? If not, how can employers protect employees who stayed in a country longer than anticipated?
So, funnily enough, I'm surprised this come. I was actually reading about this today for a client, and India specifically gave some relief at the end of their last tax year because their tax year ends at the end of March. So that was right at the beginning of the pandemic. But now, funnily enough, Elena, they're saying no for 2021, which ends tomorrow. In fact, they're saying no relief if you were here because of the pandemic. We don't care. You're still going to follow the normal Indian residency rules. And they've kind of come up with this roundabout way of saying, well, that could if we give too much relief, people could be non-resident everywhere. And therefore, rather than double taxation, there'd be zero taxation.
Zero taxation.
So they're saying, no, we're not going to allow that. There are mechanisms within the Indian tax laws to allow to get credits if you're also paying tax elsewhere. But it's not quite as simple as their authorities are making out. So most countries now, to be honest, a lot of countries that brought in COVID relief, most of them are now turning around and being like, if you're still here or if you were stuck here beyond the end of May, that was your own decision. So hard luck. We're going to treat you under the normal rules.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. Oh, let's see here. Great question, Elena. Good to see you. Good hearing from you in Clubhouse today. Let's see. We immigration and tax advisors always use the word "it depends." That's great. That's from Samdita Jadhav. Awesome. Let's see here. Steve is letting us all know he's got to go pick up the kids at school. Anyone up for some Topgolf Pro Putt tonight? Oh, this is great. The Oculus. If people don't have the Oculus, shout out to Paul Seymour's got an Oculus now. Steven's got an Oculus. Christina Caldwell's got an Oculus, so we get a little wild in the Oculus rooms over there. So I have some fun with that. Let's see here. We got another question here from Jack, of course. Jack, my man. Have you seen many companies take advantage of using COVID to treat certain expenses as not taxable?
Yeah, we saw a lot from a US perspective in terms of home office expenses, allowances that have been provided for those kind of things. Some relocation expenses we were able to get under as being part of COVID relief and related to that. We've done a project with a couple of clients that have identified those, and there's some decent money in it if you look at it, but it depends on the sort of the nature of the business in terms of how much is there, but there's definitely some savings there if people
give us a taste there, because that's squarely in our wheelhouse here. What are some of the things that people have had some success
let me
writing off?
there was one that
because I just relocated myself personally, so I'd love to know if there's anything I should.
Yeah, there was I'm trying to remember the position that we took now, because it was sort of halfway through last year, but it was the argument that it wasn't actually a relocation cost; it was more to do with a business expense. I'm trying to I'll let you know on that one, Ben. I'll get back to you. But then there were other things like if you'd bought additional equipment for your office, things like that that people were able to exclude because it was directly related to the home office setup.
Well, okay, so it's like a person, an employee, a W-2 employee is buying office equipment. I see. Okay.
Well, it was typically, if me as your employer, Ben, if I say I'm going to buy you a new flat screen TV so you can work from home, the IRS would just laugh at you and say, no, that's a taxable benefit. But last year they were saying, no, if it's for the office, then there's certain concessions that we're going to allow.
Interesting.
I think we've got a newsletter on it. I'll share it with you, Ben.
What if I as a 1099 contractor buy that same flat screen TV? Is that also a business expense?
If you're buying it for a home office, then there are avenues to take it. Yes.
Because I've got a nice space right here, and it's March Madness, and I think if
you're 1099, Ben, you want to talk to my brother-in-law who somehow managed to get a boat through his company. So he's a lot more imaginative than I'm.
Where else would I broadcast my shows from?
Well, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, along the same lines, Elizabeth and I have kind of commiserated as solopreneurs here. What can small businesses do to lower their tax burden? Any advice?
There's no sort of silver bullet there. You really need to sit down with somebody who knows what they're doing and just go through what you've done. I
thought we were doing that, Chris. We're sitting down with somebody who knows what they're doing here.
Are we going to get your accounts out, or are we going to do that? Let's.
Elizabeth's account is in play.
Yeah, I mean, you go through, see where the expenditures were, see the nature of different types of expenditure. That's the real thing that you do with a small business, is you're looking through of like, okay, there are usually a lot of gray areas. I don't want to go too here, but there are some. As I say, my brother-in-law has just about everything goes through his company. So
yeah,
it depends how risk averse you are, I think.
I hope you have multiple brother-in-laws so that the IRS can say, "Oh, really? Let me." Okie dokie. Richard has a question here. It says, "This could be a really naive question. Will Brexit bring tax incentives for talent to relocate to the UK, or are we about to lose out to the EU?" He says, I'm going to read it one more time here.
Yeah.
Richard says, "This could be a really naive question, but will Brexit bring tax incentives for talent to relocate to the UK, or are we about to lose out to the EU?"
As a firm Remainer, I would probably say the latter. The reason that I would say that is that the UK economy in its current state, and that's not to say Europe's not had a difficult economic time as well, but the UK to give incentives to foreign nationals to come into the UK after you've just had a vote which has effectively been against having foreign nationals in the UK. I mean, there is much more nuance than that. I should say that, but it's going to be a really hard political sell at the moment. It may change. I think Ireland is probably going to benefit significantly from this with the UK, and I would guess eventually, unfortunately, I think the financial capitals in France and Germany and Northern Italy will see advantage as well. Unfortunately, I may be wrong. I've been wrong about a lot before, but it seems
it does seem a little antithetical to kind of closing the country off to the outside world to then welcome them in. Although you could argue that it might give you a little more preciseness around who you're bringing in. But I mean, you could do that by changing your visas. The amount of visas Yeah, Richard, you're screwed. Sorry, bud. Uh, it's good time to leave.
I mean, it could happen in the future. It depends if we do start losing out to particularly the banking business, to mainland Europe. Then that could start seeing something, of a reaction there. It's more likely to go through, tax incentives for the industry rather than for the individual, I think.
Well, the individuals want to know more about these gray areas. So I think that, maybe in every GTN newsletter, there should be just a part, hey, and for you entrepreneurs out there in mobility, here's something you could be doing because gray areas sound pretty good these days.
So for the small business people out there, I only do gray areas when I've been bought alcoholic drinks. So we'll have to get back to normal. And then we can talk about some gray areas.
Gray areas and fuzzy memories, they're all in the same category.
The beard is a full gray area these days, unfortunately. Now I'm throwing it back.
Gray areas. We need grayer, please. Speaking of the beards, you guys are doing some funny stuff over there. Beards and braids?
Yeah.
So this beard and we're gonna braid Steve Hoffman's hair. What's going on over there?
So this is something we've been doing for the last 7 or 8 years. And I'm pleased to say that this year we're working with Move for Hunger. So all of the money that we raise is going to Move to Hunger as well. I think we're about 80% of our targets so far. So if you look me up, you should see it in my history on LinkedIn. We'd love it if people could donate. Go and give $1, $2, $10, whatever you can give. That would be great. Go and buy one of these mugs as well. I will be buying one.
Not that it's a competition. It's all going to the same place. I'm just saying. You get a mug.
Yeah.
But no, how far away from the goal are you, Chris?
I think we're about 4,500 and we want to get to 5,500. I haven't seen the latest number, but we want to push that.
1,000 short. Yeah. 1,000 short. And you're saying for $1,000, Steve Hoffman will come in with some cornrows.
Well, let me give you the background here. So this is based in hockey fandom. So, in the playoffs, right? No one shaves. They go all the way to the Stanley Cup and no one shaved, and then they all shave the beard. So we came up with something that said, well, it's tax season is a bit like our Stanley Cup, right? We're in this hellhole. Usually for sort of 6 weeks. The last 2 years, they've extended it another load of weeks. But usually we have this hard run where you don't have time to do anything. You're swamped. And so it's like, oh, let's all grow a beard, like a hockey beard. And then the girls were like, well, we can't. So we said, right, okay. You can braid your hair, so you're showing that you're not, showering every day, or you grow a beard to show you're not shaving every day. So we're just having a bit of fun. We started doing it for charity, and we've raised quite a bit of money over the years. We've done different charities, but the best bit, Ben, which I promise Steve and I will show with you, and we'll try and get you some more, is we have a mustache competition on April 15th. So everybody who has grown the beard then has to shave the most ridiculous mustache they can think of. So mine is under wraps for this year, but I think our COO won by showing up with a Magnum mustache, but in a full Hawaiian shirt and really tight white shorts. So things like that, becoming legend. And so if
I may submit a suggestion, several suggestions actually.
Absolutely, please.
So I'm just looking at the curvature of your mustache here. I'm thinking you take this piece off right here. You take the chin off down here, and you let the mustache connect to the chops in a very, kind of General Burnside's chops meets, and then kind of go over and then back around. I don't know. Thoughts?
Lemmy from Motorhead. I like where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
I did something similar a couple of years ago. So I've got a really special one in mind this year, Ben. But I promise, if people from this show, if we can get an extra $150 on that from people from this show, I will show you the beard, the full collection, if you like, of the mustaches that we're going to do.
We're a big fan of DE&I on the show, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I always think it's interesting to kind of unpack gender norms and question them. So I would also like to submit that maybe for 2022, the women don't shave and the men braid their hair.
I'd have to start now. They'd have to find 3 of my hairs to braid.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Use 3 flowers. It's a very
we do
petroleum project.
to that point. We obviously have we actually employ quite a number of men who can't grow beards, and women with short hair. So what we also do is we have virtual beard and braid competitions. People do their kids. People dye their hair. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. We're getting questions here. Can you post the link? Is there a link to this contest, or where can people donate?
I will repost it again later on. But yeah, if any of you are on the mailing list, you should have had an email about it earlier this week. I'll repost it on LinkedIn. I'll send out again. If you can help me, I'll send the link to you as well. If you can repost it when I do,
help you post the link. Yes, yeah. I can help you post the link. Right click, awesome. Copy, right click, paste.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that sufficient? It depends.
It depends. I'll have my technical.
We got a link here. Actually, the community's helped us out here. They put a link here. Sandra, that's awesome. I don't know if there's a way for me to actually put that in a clickable. I think it might be clickable there. And Valerie's not a huge fan of flipping the script here. Val, too far? I don't know. Let us know. Jen saying here.
Oh, there we go.
There's one on classy.org. There we go. Everybody's getting in now. Everybody's doing it. That's awesome. Yep. Yeah, go ahead and donate that. Chris, we can get you a lace front wig that you can braid, I'm told.
Ben, can I ask you a question? What's a lace front wig?
Listen, man, I just read the comments, okay, dude? I read the comments, you answer. I read the comments, you answer, so on and so forth.
I'll just say okay to that one, Elena.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe some extensions. I don't know. We could have some fun with it. You know, you just need a little something to grab onto, and then we can do wonders with that.
Absolutely.
I want to ask you before, we're having a lot of fun here. Before we get into the top 5, I want to ask you one last kind of semi-serious question. Serious question. Is there anything that our corporate folks or our relocation management company listeners need to be thinking about right now when it comes to tax? I mean, is there anything really kind of tax related that we haven't maybe touched on that people really need to be thinking about?
Yeah, I think I've sort of briefly touched on this earlier, but I think one of the things we're going to see, just based on history, is following recessions, tax authorities are needing money. So let me give you an example of that. A friend of mine from the town I live in, his daughter had something like $1,800 of New York state tax withheld last year while she was working in Connecticut. She's clearly a Connecticut resident, not a resident of New York, was working up here. They issued her with a residency audit. So I think we just need to be prepared that in the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot more personal audits. We're going to see a lot more payroll audits. And as I've sort of mentioned a couple of times, there's going to be an expectation of you should have done this right. This always happens when countries need money. And that's just the reality that we have to deal with. So just be ready for it. There's not much we can do about it. There's just going to be dealing with it as we go through. But, you know, if you can put some payroll controls in place, great. But just be ready for that wave of activity, I think.
Do you think that we're going to see more scrutiny towards independent contractors, small business owners, LLCs, S-Corps?
Independent contractors, definitely. I think that's just the way the economy is going, this gig economy type work with independent contractors. Most independent contractors, if you read the rules, Ben, are employees. You know, a true independent contractor can subcontract to other people. They can work with other people at the same time. They can do different jobs. They're supposed to use their own tools. A lot of these a lot of people are using the company laptop and all that, but they're classed as independent contractors. That would be small businesses. I think you're probably going to be okay on LLC type stuff. But I think independent contractors is going to be a crackdown, because what happens for the authorities is they lose a lot of Social Security tax. So that's why it's a big piece for them.
Yeah, about 7.5% or something like that. So very, very good. I think that we have a little bit of time left. We might have 5 minutes left. You want to play a game, Chris?
Absolutely.
All right, great. All right, we're gonna play top five. Chris, you got a top five for me today?
I do
What's your
indeed.
top five here?
Yeah. Top 5 places to go after the pandemic.
Top five places to go after the pandemic. First, before we get into this, when is after the pandemic?
When it is safe to travel again without restriction. So I can.
It depends. You gave me it depends. We don't got that much time. It depends.
Yeah, I mean,
so give me a month. Give me a month of year when this new Chris Hall tours the world tour is going to happen.
I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to say October this year.
October 2021. You heard it here first. All right, fantastic. Let's see what he's got in store here. Number 5.
Number 5 is Argentina.
Nice. Whereabouts in Argentina?
As many places I can go. I mean, when a country's entire culture is based around beef and red wine, I mean, you just can't go wrong, can you?
Oh
So,
my gosh.
yeah.
So you're Buenos Aires, or are you like it's like Patagonia? Like what are we
I would love to do. Yeah, I would love to do some of the farm country out there, and go down to Patagonia would be fantastic. But I think you can't go to Argentina and not go to Buenos Aires. So it's just what it would be a trip of a lifetime, to be honest. I've always wanted to go down there.
Sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. A little Malbec and a little bit of a chimichurri on a steak. Oh man, sounds nice. All right, number 4.
Number 4 is Vancouver, Canada, as opposed to Vancouver, Germany. But
Vancouver, Washington, which is a real disappointment.
Exactly. Yeah, this one is just I used to live in Canada. I've been all over Canada, but I've never been to Vancouver. I've got loads of friends there. It's just one of those places that I need to go and I haven't done yet. So it's definitely on the list. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I actually spoke at a conference in Vancouver. It was the only time I've ever been. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I saw a gas station in the middle of the water in Vancouver, the Shell station, and the airplanes just land right there, fuel up, and then take off. But it's like right in the middle of a city harbor. It's
incredible, isn't it? Yeah,
that was awesome.
Everyone who goes there loves it, right? Yeah,
it's amazing. It's amazing. Number 3
is Iceland. Why?
Well, I've heard a lot. I'll be honest with you. Before the pandemic, pre-pandemic, PP, I heard a lot of people hitting Reykjavik because, was it Ryanair? Who's the airline that has that?
Was it Aer Lingus was doing it, or was it? Yeah, one of the airlines was giving you a free stopover, right? Maybe.
All their stops were there. That was like their hub, and every so you get super cheap into Reykjavik.
Yeah,
and people are going to Iceland like crazy. What's your thought on Iceland?
I'm a big golfer. Well, golfer is a stretch. I'm a person who owns golf clubs who sometimes goes on a course.
I think that's the definition, though, Chris. Yeah, but okay, continue.
Yeah, there is a thing in Iceland called the Iceland Open, which you can basically you can enter for about 350 euros, and it's a 2-day golf tournament that's played through the night because it's in the middle of summer, and the sun never goes down, and it includes free drink and food. So that to me just sounds like heaven. So that's on my bucket list. So
that sounds like a blast, but I got to tell you, the crash sounds monumental.
We'll worry about that later.
Between the travel and then the jet lag, and then the no sleep, and then the booze and the food and the golf and oh my gosh, you'd be out of your brain. Number 2
is Italy. I have only ever been once myself. I went on a business trip there a couple of years ago, and I remember coming back and saying to my wife, if I'd moved to Italy rather than the US when I was 24, I'd probably be living in Italy right now. I loved it so much. It's been on my wife and I's bucket list for a long, long time, and we just, every time we get close, something comes up like a pandemic to stop us going. But we're definitely going to go to Italy as soon as we possibly can after we're back to normal.
It's so funny you say that, because April 2020 was my 10-year anniversary, and I wanted to take my wife to Italy.
Oh, man.
And then that was like, and my wife said, no, I don't want to go. She's crazy. That's another story. And she was right. Italy was a raging hot mess of COVID. It
was.
In April 2020.
It was. So did you go to Olive Garden instead? Was that the?
Yeah, that's what we did. That's what he did.
Good
Still
eye.
got COVID. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. He COVID. Got breadsticks. Number one.
And number one, I mean, it has to be the UK, right? I haven't seen my folks in a couple of years. I haven't seen my brother since last Christmas. So, yeah, as soon as we can, we'll be hopping on the plane and taking the kiddos back to see Granny and Grandpa. So
that's awesome. Any advice on getting affordable airfare and travel?
I would ask you the same. I'm really worried. I'm pretty sure that everywhere is going to be the same, right? As soon as England opens up, everybody who can go home will try and go home, and it's going to be very true of a lot of places. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. We'll see. We'll see. I see Richard says I vote Sheffield. My parents are actually just north of Sheffield, so that is where it will be. And hopefully I'll get to see a soccer game, but we'll see.
Nice. Tessa enjoyed the show. Hey, Tessa Boone, good to see you. Excellent. Iceland almost COVID-free, they say.
Another reason. There we go.
So bring some with you. Neil, what? No Disney World?
No, Neil. No.
I love it. I love it. I love it. This is great. This is wonderful. All right, awesome. Hey, I want to ask you, Chris, I appreciate your time so much. I want to ask you if you want to leave people with like maybe a final word or final thought today.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily tax related, but Ben, I think we sort of swapped a couple of emails on this, but just it's been a tough year for everybody. It's been a tough year for our industry and how that's impacted different people. So just check in on people and see how everybody's doing. I think that would be my final message.
Yeah, sounds good. Love it. Chris, it's been wonderful having you here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody who checked in. The show is always better because you're here. So thanks for taking time out of your day to get involved. Get in the comments, ask those questions, hit that like button. If you haven't done so already, give Chris a virtual little green button round of applause. Don't forget to donate to Move for Hunger through Chris Hall's charity thing that they got going on with the beards and braids. Also, don't forget to get a LOVE+RELO Move for Hunger tumbler. It does come with a lid too. That's not extra. That's free. It's on the house. So make sure to get that as well. We want to raise a bunch of money. And tomorrow we've got Evelyn Dye on. We're actually talking about Asian hate on the show. So a nice, fun topic. No, but seriously, it is important that we stand with our Asian brothers and sisters in this time. So we're going to be talking about that and unpacking that. So I hope to see you tomorrow, same time. And Chris, thanks again. Really
thanks for having me. That's been a lot of fun.